Guten Tag, grüezi miteinander. Hello, my name is Eve, and on my channel I discuss how to teach your child German when you are not a native German speaker. Today's subject is activities my children do with their German teacher. So for the tasting this week, my children did a cupcake tasting, and I just made a regular batch of cupcakes, and I added some lemon juice to some of the batter and then some cocoa powder and so on, and I put different frostings on the cupcakes, and they did a cupcake tasting. Another activity is a Mike and Ike tasting, a candy tasting. So when I go to the store and I see something has 10 flavors, I'm like, oh, that's perfect for a tasting, because they can taste each one and describe to their teacher what it tastes like in German. Or I made a lunch tasting since class was near lunchtime. I gave them different dipping sauces like sweet and sour sauce, honey, barbecue sauce, and they dipped their foods in it. So my children made a dump cake with their teacher. If you don't know what a dump cake is, it's a very American dessert, and you literally dump all the ingredients in the baking dish. And it's very easy. The kids love doing activities like this with their German teacher. And this week they are making a poke cake. So a poke cake, you literally poke the cake and you add different ingredients. There are so many poke cakes. So if you come to America and someone asks you, what's a dump cake or what's a poke cake? Now you know. What's great about baking, they're learning measurements in German. They're learning all the German vocabulary regarding baking. And when it's done and they start eating it, they're describing the words in German. And how often do we sit down and talk about food in our daily lives? So that's why I always incorporate some sort of food activity in every class. So when my children have casual conversations with their German tutor, they don't necessarily always need to be sitting down. I always like to incorporate movement in their session so they don't get bored, and if they're really hyper that day, they can kind of get their wiggles out, so to say. So the other day, during the casual conversation section of class, my son wanted to make paper airplanes and fly them. So I just let him, because why not? Let your child have a little fun in class and move around a little bit. And then if they feel like sitting that day, maybe let them do a scratch paper while their German teacher, or you if you speak German, and ask them some casual conversation questions. So I think with little kids, if they want to do Play-Doh, if they want to play with toys while they're being asked questions, why not? They're going to be fidgeting anyway sometimes, so I say embrace it. And sometimes you think your child is not paying attention, but they are. I learned this lesson when I used to take my young children to music together classes, and I kept trying to make my son sit on my lap or sit on the floor, and the teacher said to me, just let him run around the classroom. He is listening to the songs. And sure enough, when we got home, I played the music of Music Together, and he knew all the words, he knew all the hand movements. So casual conversation and the tasting is what I call the warm-up, warming up their brains. And then after that, that was really fun. And then I bring on a grammar exercise, and I will have my 10-year-old do some sort of grammar exercise with their German teacher, and I'll have them do a worksheet, such as going over modal verbs or prepositions and so on. And then after that, their German teacher will ask them, do you want to do math next or charades? And my 10-year-old loves math, and he'll say math. And then they'll continue on to charades. So if I have any advice, if your child learns German on multiple days, have one day that is a little more grammar, and then the next day do math. Or one day light, one day hard. Just to keep it fun. And if your child asks you, well, what are we doing in class today? Just say it's going to be a surprise. It's always fun. I constantly change the activities up. If your children are really into nature, you can go on a scavenger hunt with your child and have them find different vocabulary words in German. You can have them plant some seeds and talk about that in German. You can go over rocks. I mentioned this activity multiple times, but each activity can be different. For instance, did the rock come from a volcano, a mountain, a desert, ocean, or a cave? And why they think that. And then they can categorize it. And then at the end of class, check it out and see where the rocks actually came from. I do sit with my children the whole time when they are in these private German lessons with their German tutor. Because when I start to notice in their body language that a topic is too overwhelming, or they did a lot of math and I can start seeing their head exploding, I will then say to their teacher, maybe we should do charades now because I think he's had enough math or grammar. I'm very in tune with my children, as in when I start to notice them wiggling and jiggling in their seats, that's a cue. We need to change topic, or we need to change from sitting position to a standing position, and so on. Another reason why I sit with them is because sometimes if they start sneaking English in their lesson. So when my oldest son was little and he was starting to learn German, he would start speaking in English. And then I would say, Deutsch, Deutsch. And there were times when he was a little stubborn. He just wanted to stick to English. But it's amazing how fast your child will switch to German once you start saying, well, I'm going to take away your screen time. With my children, they love iPads, playing games on their iPads. So all I literally have to say if they are speaking too much English is, do you want to play your iPad later? And then I don't have an issue. I'm very strict with making sure they speak German as much as they can. When they were first starting out, obviously they didn't have enough German vocab to speak in German. But at this point, they've had German now for 4 years. They have enough vocabulary to form sentences. So these activities do take time to prepare and to clean up afterwards, but it's really worth it because your children will learn so much vocabulary from these activities, and they're keeping their hands moving, they're moving around, they're engaging their senses, and if it gets messy, that's okay, because at the end of the day, they're learning German in a fun way, and it's really important to keep it fun, because why shouldn't it be fun? German should be fun to learn. If you like this video, please give me a like and subscribe to my channel. Dankeschön. Tschüss.